Every pirate legend gets this reoccurring and uncontrollable call to the seas, which is exactly how I've felt lately, so join me as I spend 24 hours on the Sea of Thieves. I've had my fair share of experience on the seas, with 280 hours of playtime. However, I haven't played in nearly 2 years, so still, waking up after my night at the pub, it just felt a bit different. Any Athenas on the seas? No Athenas. So the pirate legendary is right here somewhere, right? Anyways, after a little while of struggling to get into the pirate legendary, I finally figured it out, wasted some time in there, and then hopped on my ship and set sail. Oh wait, apparently I have to waste some time decorating my ship before I get to work. So, now I'll set sail. Then I made my way up north to Galleon's Grave Outpost. Since this was my first time back on in so long, I wanted to stay away from people for a bit, just to get back into the groove of things. So I decided to run this loop up north filled with forts and treasuries, which is a good starting place because there's not really many reasons for other ships to be up there, even though it's not super efficient for money. It's also nice because it is enough loot in this quest so that your gold hoarder's flag will get up to level 5 by the end, and it takes right around 2 hours, which I was able to sell for 150k gold. I went back to Galleon's Grave Outpost and switched out my gold hoarder's flag for a merchant flag. Then I started buying for a commodity run. I came across this weird glitch where I couldn't actually retrieve all of my commodities, but we move. Once my commodity run was finished at Murrow's Peak, I sold for 80k and switched back to the gold hoarder's flag. I started running ancient vaults under the gold hoarder's flag. I did these in the Devil's Roar because it's best to do them here since there are less islands, there are less places to look, and the quest takes less time. I finished up my first 2 vaults and got a decent haul of loot. Then I had my first battle with a skelly ship and sank it. I handed in my loot from the 2 vaults under my level 5 flag and made 120k. Then I lowered the gold hoarder's flag and rose that of Athena's fortune. I then set out for an Ashen Voyage of Legends, which is a series of quests ending with the best chest in the game. One Voyage of Legends wasn't actually enough for me to max my emissary flag, so I decided to stack 2 of them. Then I turned in the loot for both voyages for 100k. And set back out for another Voyage of Legends. But while I was in the middle of it, my ship just randomly sunk. I'm still not sure how. So I rescued as much stuff as I could, but some did sink. I went to retrieve my new ship and re-rose the flag of Athena's fortune. I went out and ran 2 more voyages under Athena's emissary flag and sold for 100k yet again. Then I decided to have a go at the skelly ship, which has been pissing me off. And I was able to sink it. I returned back to Murrow's Peak, switched out my emissary flag for that of the Merchant Alliance, because I had just made a new discovery. A new feature added to this game, well, I don't know if it's new, but new to me, is faction raids. These only give loot for the specific faction of your choosing. For me, I chose the Merchants, and so I ran a Merchant Skeleton Fort. I only made 20k from this first fort, but part of it was because I was still working on maxing the flag. And then I headed to a second skelly fort and my ship sunk. This is another one, I have no idea how. So I went, got my flag back, and rinse and repeat. I did 2 more Merchant Skelly forts, sold for 100k under a rank 5 flag, and started a commodity run now that I have this rank 5 flag. After selling all of my commodities and lowering my flag, I had made another 100k. And since I was at Murrow's Peak, I put Athena's emissary flag back up and set out for a chest of legends, just to be attacked by a skelly ship. Once I was through that, I got stumped on both of the first 2 voyages, so everything was just going great. After something like my 4th try at this quest, I finally figured out the whole thing and got my first chest of legends. And then, after all this shit that's gone wrong, I got sunk by a gunpowder keg. Actually multiple, and could only save about half my stuff. The chest of legends thankfully being one of them. After retrieving my loot on the new ship, I headed back to Murrow's Peak and got a new emissary flag, because after what I've been through, I was not about to turn this stuff in with no bonus. Now that all that bullshit was out of the way, I got my emissary flag back up to level 5 through a couple more quests, and sold everything for 250k. Then, to top off everything that's been going wrong, I briefly went to the bathroom and got disconnected. Once onto the new server, I rose the Gold Hoarder's flag and headed straight north to make a fort and treasury run. And during this, after 19 hours, I finally got my first Kraken encounter. Once I got out of that, I went and sold all the loot from my northern run for 100k. Before getting distracted by an Ashen Winds event that I went for. Beat him up and sold everything for 75k, followed up by a second northern fort and treasury run. After finishing my second northern run and selling, I headed for the Devil's Roar to do some Vaults of the Ancients. At this point, I really needed something good to happen, because I was beaten down and tired. Which God must have known, because I was blessed with what I believe to be my first ever perfect Vault run, which I turned in for about 75k. As I set back out, I ran into another skelly ship and sank it. And before I could even get back on my ship after that encounter, a Kraken attacked it. I made my way back to Murrow's Peak, selling my last bit of loot for 100k. And finished this 24-hour challenge.